So I finally had a chance to sit down and check out the Enzo shoot interview that was conducted by RF Video. And I am definitely going to give you my overall thoughts about the shoot interview in a hot second. But I do want to take this time out and give those of you that have not purchased this DVD yet by RF Video a consumer product warning, which is the DVD that I had acquired. It is defective. And what I mean by defective is I got this DVD in the mail right before the weekend hit. I played it in my Xbox One game console. Now, it's very rare I use the disc tray for my Xbox One because a lot of the games that I end up playing, usually if it's not on my iOS or my Android, I'm usually downloading the game from the Xbox Marketplace. So it's very rare I use the Xbox disc tray itself for games or playing DVDs. As many of you Xbox One owners know, you have to download the Blu-ray app from the App Store so that you would be able to play Blu-ray and standard DVDs. And there are a lot of bad reviews for that app, as people are quick to say, hey, it would not play this specific DVD, and I've played this DVD and any type of player that's out there, and it always works. For some reason, does not work with this app. Xbox or /Microsoft, please fix your app. So I'm playing this DVD. I make it to about the 1 hour, 26 minute mark, and it freezes. It would not go past any further. Try to rewind it. Nope, not happening. Try to fast forward. Nope, not happening. I ended up restarting my game console thinking, well, maybe this will do the trick. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes maybe there's a crash and all right, just restart it and that should fix itself, right? No. Happened at the same time frame again, same timestamp. So I said, okay, luckily I had a Xbox 360. I've still been pushing my Xbox 360 once in a blue moon. I will fire that up just to play specific Xbox 360 game titles that have not gotten the backwards compatibility treatment for Xbox One gamers, right? So loaded it up on the 360. And once again, I get to that 1 hour, 26 minute mark. This time I'm able to fast forward and I'm able to continue to watch. I'm thinking, okay, all right, I'm good. I thought that maybe I was going to have to hit up Rob Feinstein and his people and say, hey man, look, this DVD, blah, 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 blah. Because if it's just one little skip or whatever, one little area that's, I'm going to have to grab the remote control and fast forward that. Okay, no problem. I could live with that. Well, sadly, I come across this same problem again that's much worse, and it kicks in at the 2 hour and 26, maybe the 2 hour, 29 minute mark of the DVD. And at this point, you only got a little less than a half hour left of what is supposed to be a 3 hour shoot. Tried to do the fast forward, tried to rewind. It would not work. The disc tray, the Xbox 360 would not budge. It kept continuing to read the disc over and over and over again. And I tried to put it back in the Xbox One, try to see if maybe no budge, right? So I know Rob Feinstein and his people, one of the things that they care about greatly is customer service. I know that they're going to do their part in making things right with this particular order that I did. And I just can't help but be reminded of what had went down many years ago when I was in my late teens going into my early 20s. I remember how me and my best friends, we would always stop by the FYE and we would grab animated DVDs. For some of us, it was the Street Fighter original miniseries that was out. For me, I was a big fan of Guyver, and I'll never forget, there was about maybe 3-4 discs of Guyver episodes I was trying to obtain. And I remember one of the discs would not play a particular episode, and as a result of that, I had to fast forward the entire episode and go to the next one. And I remember my friend said, well, let's just go back to the store. We could just do an exchange, get a different one, and that should be the end of it. That's what we ultimately did, and we came across the same problem again. So that kind of let us know that, wait a minute, there must be something going on with the manufacturer. And it turns out when we looked in the forums and everything, people were complaining. It was pretty widespread that this was a serious defective issue by whoever was the manufacturer producing these DVDs. So I'm hoping that with regards to what happened with this particular instance, that my incident is just isolated and that it does not affect anybody else. So make sure you are aware with regards to that. So it does kind of hurt the overall review of this DVD, sadly, because I did not get a chance to check out the last 23 minutes. But despite that, I would say that overall, if you have the ability to check this out, whether RF Video has it available streaming on their website, or at this point it's just available to purchase on DVD, and you've never heard Enzo on the Stone Cold podcast from a couple of months back, where Stone Cold just let Enzo run loose and just bullet point after bullet point just got it all out there, then I would say go ahead out of your way and check out this shoot interview. You really get such great, enriching insight from Enzo, the man behind Enzo, and how he was just a regular schmuck. He was just a regular Joe working a 9-to-5 job. And you learn that this guy is really, really smart, but this guy just an average Joe. Just a typical wrestling fan that one day decides, hey, I want to try to figure out how is it even possible, if remotely, that I can maybe start to have a career in the wrestling business. And he talked to Rob very passionately about how he remembers being a little kid going to the Continental Airline Arena, and how he went to WWE events, and how he was there at the stadiums, at the arenas for particular milestone events. He was there during the curtain call. He was there when Bob Backlund got beat by Kevin Nash in 8 seconds, right? He remembers being a fan of Shawn Michaels and seeing when Shawn Michaels had threw Marty Jannetty out of the glass window at the barbershop, and Shawn Michaels going heel and everything. And he remembers how Shawn Michaels went to that infamous Royal Rumble, and the grand prize for him was Pamela Anderson, right? All he had to do was just win the Royal Rumble, and boom, he basically gets this hot babe, Pamela Anderson, fresh off of what all had went down with the TV series Baywatch, right along with David Hasselhoff and everything. And y'all remember how, yeah, Shawn won it and everything, but how Kevin Nash tried to one-up him and everything with the pretty little dial around his arm and all that, right? So all of these moments he remembers, and in particular, Shawn Michaels going heel. He was a big Shawn Michaels fan, and that's what really had set him off to want to eat, sleep, and breathe professional wrestling. But like many of us, we do get to that period where we not necessarily fall out of love with wrestling, but we outgrow it and we move on to other things. And that was the case for him when he got older. He was playing football. He was pretty damn good at it. Eventually, he went on to college and got a degree in journalism. He was working for a moving truck company. Believe it or not, he was working for a moving truck company. And one of the colleges that he was in, and I thought this was very, very interesting. One of the colleges that he was in, he got kicked out of it because, get this, he beat the crap out of a kid who had raped a woman. I bullshit you not. He got kicked out of a school because he came to the defense of a young girl that came to him and told him, hey, this guy had did blah, 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 blah. Enzo did what he could to find that guy, beat the holy shit out of him. And the college, though they understood why Enzo did what he did, and eventually there was like a lawsuit that had came about between that boy, the accuser, and victim, and college involved. Things had got settled and everything, but in the case of Enzo, he got kicked out of the school, but he had enough people there that really liked him, that tried to do him a solid and tried to see about having him go to another school. And for those of you in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you'll find this very interesting in case you never knew this before. Eventually, Enzo had came to school out in Salisbury, Maryland, right? And so he basically would kick back. He would do reviews for theater plays and he would also do certain areas of politics. He would type up reviews for as well. So yeah, he was doing all that briefly here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. But after that was all said and done, he was working for a moving truck company, doing a number of odd jobs. You learn early on how his dad is a professional DJ. His uncles, he's got cousins that are professional DJs. They all respectfully run their own business. So as far as the gift of talking on the microphone goes, this just comes naturally to Enzo. You learn that early on, but combine that with the fact that he has a degree in journalism and he does all of this serious writing, right? The guy knows how to tell a story. That is a fantastic combination. Talked about how he used to also write for his school newspaper, things of that nature. I found all that very, very fascinating, and I also found it very relatable because some of this I also did in high school, and I did a little bit in college as well. So, and the fact that he had some type of a brief association out here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, I just couldn't help but go, wow, small world. That is pretty badass. I love that. And I like how he told the story of how eventually he got the opportunity to have a tryout at WWE, and the way that it came about. He's been friends with Joe DeFranco, the guy that trains Triple H and Stephanie McMahon religiously pretty much all year round. He's their go-to guy. There is a gym that Enzo would frequent, and Joe DeFranco would be there. And one day, Paul Levesque, Triple H, had put a little birdie in DeFranco's ear and said, hey, look, if you know of any guys that are built pretty damn well and they're a former football player, let me know, because we definitely want to give them a tryout, see what we can do for them. But yeah, that's what we're looking for right now. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I need right about now. So DeFranco was telling Enzo about this, and Enzo working an odd number of jobs. I mean, even after the whole moving truck deal, there was this one job that he had where he worked as a Verizon desk assistant. You've seen them walk inside of a Walmart, or you are in a Target store or something of that nature, and you see a Verizon kiosk and somebody's right there, a salesperson basically, and they're trying to get you to sign up for Verizon services. Well, Enzo was that guy, and it didn't last very long because he felt it was a dead-end job. And he didn't like the restrictions that came with working that job. He had some tattoos. It had to do with his aunt, his grandmother, his mom, that was on the outer palm of his hand. And they told him, oh, no, you can't have that be showing when you're working for us. Put a Band-Aid over it or something. And that was serious buzzkill for him. So took his lunch break and pretty much never came back to that job. Eventually, he ended up working at a Hooters restaurant. And he was always one of those type of individuals. Well, I don't want to just be making my money. I want to know the inner workings. I wanted to know, hey, how is this made? How's this possible? And even when he was working at Hooters, he was always trying to figure out ways to put more money in his pocket because sadly, as many of y'all know that have worked in the fast food industry before, hey, fast food, Hooters, everything is based off of commission. The wage is very, 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 very low. So you're relying on the tips. You're relying on that extra commission. So anything that Enzo is able to pick up as far as additional work, learning how stuff was made in the back, things of that nature, he was just a jack of all trades. Eventually he became a manager and everything, but he still wanted more out of life. And so Joe DeFranco hit him up, knew how much of a big wrestling fan that he was, and said, hey, you know Paul Levesque? And Enzo's like, yeah, hell yeah, I know about Paul Levesque. What's the 411? So DeFranco hooks him up. Okay, all right, I'm going to be there. So he goes to the gym and everything. And he felt early on that for Paul Levesque, he felt that he was the red-haired stepchild. And Paul Levesque's eyes, and many higher ups in the WWE's eyes, because basically when it's all said and done, he was not exactly what the company was looking for, but there was no denying that he had some type of a special gift, that there was something there that definitely needed some eyes put upon him and try to see what he might be capable of doing, right? So Paul Levesque, okay, all right, we'll try you out. Come on down. We'll try you out. But Paul Levesque, almost day one, hey, look, we're just going to let this guy go. Forget about this kid, but we'll try him out just to entertain him, just for shits and giggles. We'll sit this out. So everything else was pretty much history, as they say. Now, Rob Feinstein, this was not the traditional Rob Feinstein RF video that many people have grown accustomed to, where Rob has a question and it's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. This was much like with the Stone Cold podcast, where once in a while Stone Cold will jump in, make sure that he's steering the ship, steering Enzo in the right direction and everything. He's putting in his 2 cents and everything. This was one of those type of shoot interviews where Enzo was in charge. Enzo was dictating the course of where he wanted to go during this shoot interview. Rob had very little input, and with regards to some of the questions that maybe Rob did have, a lot of times the questions would just be breezed on by, right? They would not be acknowledged. Or it would be a case where Rob would maybe have to ask a second, maybe potentially a third time, and Enzo would address it that way. But for the most part, this was just Enzo steering the whole ship. And Enzo really comes off as a very likable guy. He comes off as a very smart guy, not in a rub it in your face, I'm better than you smart, but as far as trying to be successful in life, as far as trying to do everything in your power to learn certain things and apply it to your own craft, apply it to your own brand so that you can be a successful business, a successful entrepreneur. All of these little things that you're learning from Enzo during this shoot that you really gravitate towards and you find, for me at least, very, very fascinating. You wanted to learn a lot more about it. Now, as far as the opportunities that Enzo was able to have on the microphone and everything, when he got to that point where he was on the main roster with Big Kaz and everything, Vince, as far as Enzo laid it out during the interview, Vince trusted him. Of all the people when it comes to the microphone, Vince trusted him the most. So if they had 4 minutes that they needed to kill and Enzo was maybe coming up next, okay, we'll let Enzo go on out there, let him do what he needs to do, and Enzo will take us on home. And depending on how good Enzo was on that microphone, sometimes they would just on the fly, all right, yeah, it's 4 minutes, but he is on such a hot streak right now, let him keep on talking. As far as the early days at the Performance Center, Bill DeMont was not in the picture just yet, because remember, it was still FCW. And back then, it was Doc Pritchard, Bruce Pritchard's brother, that was down there. And Enzo worked very closely with Norman Smiley. And Norman Smiley, you hear this a lot. You've heard this a lot in a lot of shoot interviews. It's been a recurring theme how all the boys have put over Norman Smiley. And I would just like to believe that with regards to what the Ultimate Warrior had laid out before he died, how he really wanted for there to be an award that recognizes the work of the unsung heroes in the back. I tell you, if they ever do decide they want to do something like that, Norman Smiley, I would love to believe, would be one of the first recipients of that, one of the first top 5 or whatnot, right? But Enzo put over Norman Smiley tremendously, basically saying Norman didn't have to work until 8 in the morning, but Norman knew that Enzo would be there at 5:30 in the morning. And the reason why Enzo wanted to be there at 5:30 in the morning was because it was a well-known fact amongst Bill DeMont, Paul Levesque, everybody. They basically were chomping at the bits to fire Enzo. I mean, you just imagine that. You get an opportunity, but there are so many people that want you to fail from the start, right? You have all of this adversity on your plate from the get-go. Just imagine that. No different than you're starting a new job. Your resume, it says you're more than qualified for the position. You're more than qualified of commanding the salary that you say, hey, if you're interested in my services, well, this is how much I want per hour, and they give it to you and everything. But then you've got this big ass bullseye on your back of, oh yeah, by the way, blah, 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 get to it or else you're out of a job, right? Just imagine having that type of pressure on you, right? That is just ridiculous. So one of the things that they would do to intimidate Enzo was make sure you're there on time. If you're not there on time, you are fired. So he wouldn't be due until 8 in the morning, but he decided, no, you know what? I want to get there much earlier. If I can, I want to beat the executives to the performance center. I want to beat them. So he would do everything in his power to get there at that time that I mentioned, 5:30 in the morning. And even though Norman Smiley did not have to be there until 8 in the morning, he would get there at that same time and would help him out every chance that he was able to get. And you look at the contract that Enzo had back then under this performance deal, right? He was basically bringing in $600 a week. Now, what he was doing before he came to the WWE with the odd jobs that he was doing, he was pulling in twice that, if not a little bit more. So for him, this was really about just having the opportunity to be able to come into a sport, to come into an industry that he loved, admired so much as a kid. The experience. That's what was really the buzz for him that made him decide, okay, I want to continue to keep at this. I want to continue to stay within this, right? And I love the part where he was talking about the promo classes and everything. Now, I know one of the tipping points that a lot of people are going to be very interested in is what did Enzo have to say about Simon Gotch? This was definitely one of the first times that Enzo finally had broke his silence with regards to Simon Gotch. We know Simon Gotch infamously in podcast interviews, shoot interviews, has said, oh, well, Enzo broke his own freaking leg, blah, blah, blah. That tells you what you need to know about him and all this other crap, right? Well, Enzo had shed some serious light on that particular incident in question where he had broke his leg. And he basically had said he remembered the tryout that he was doing with Aiden English. And him and Aiden English, as you all probably know, they both got signed. And he said, look, Aiden English will tell you this. He'll back me up 100%. Me and him have had matches many, many, many times. And the spots that I would normally do in my match against him, I could do it with my hands tied behind my back. I could do it blindfolded, no problems whatsoever. Done it many times. The one time I have a match, the first time I have a match with Simon Gotch, and I do what I normally do, and it ends up with me breaking my leg, hey, you can tell me that is some shitty luck, and that's how I'm looking at it. But Enzo has stressed that if he were ever to find out that what went down with his match with Gotch was not a accident, that it was intentional, well, you connect the dots from there, right? There's basically going to be some serious hell to pay. So, yeah, you could tell that Enzo really did not want to go in this area, but as far as he was concerned, he felt as though he really needed to clear the air up, so to speak. And then he also talked about something he felt might have maybe got him in hot water with Simon Gotch, is the best way I can put it. So rewind it back just a little bit. So Gotch, English, Kaz, Enzo, they would do promo classes every single week. Now, one particular week, Gotch and English, they came in button-up suits and all that. They came in with Jim Henson puppets that looked just like Enzo and Kaz, and they were doing a monologue ripping Enzo and Kaz. Enzo and Kaz, they're looking at this. Enzo saying to Kaz, my guy, man, we gotta come at these guys hard. We gotta get them. We so gotta get these guys. You down? All right, come on. Let's go ahead. Let's do this. So Enzo counters right on back, and he talked about how, hey, look at Simon Gotch's little strap there. Look at his man boobs. He's got 65-year-old titties. I love that. He said Simon Gotch has sagging 65-year-old tits, and the other students, they're looking at Simon Gotch, and Gotch, remember, he had that one singlet strap, so he immediately tries to cover up his man boobie, and they just start busting up laughing and everything. And he feels that it was at that moment going forward that Simon Gotch was a bit salty, right? But throughout this whole shoot, the one thing that was very consistent with Enzo, it was, hey, I got nothing but love. If I did have problems with people, if I had beef or whatever like that, I'm not going to put it out there. I'm not in this to be ripping people up. I had a really great, fortunate time when I was in the business. I learned so many things from so many people. I was given the biggest and greatest opportunity in the world. Even when a case occurred where he could have buried Bill DeMott. And I love how he kind of spun it and put it back on Rob, saying, look, I'm sure you've heard what you've heard about Bill DeMott. I'm not going to confirm and I'm not going to deny it. But there definitely, I definitely was on Bill DeMott's list. I definitely was on his shit list. And he talked about how for weeks upon weeks, he's with the ring crew. Remember, he worked for a moving truck company. So he knows very well, okay, I got to get these parts. I got to build the ring, all this. We got to make sure things are weighing a certain way when we put it on the truck, all of this. He's doing all of the behind the scenes stuff that nobody cares about, right? He's there going to the stadium armories. He's selling the merchandise, the whole 9 yards, and he's interacting with the fans, all of that. And of the top merchandise pushers for the FCW stuff and all, he's one of the top sellers, and he still is not able to earn a spot in the ring and fighting. Crazy, right? One day he's kicking back, hard work done. He just got done putting stuff on the truck or whatever. He's eating a pink donut, and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, comes in and he says, Enzo, hey man, you got your gear on you? Okay, well, go ahead, get your gear, and you're going to come on out in the ring. And so he came on out in the ring and cut a little promo. I believe the promo that he had cut, it was on Mason Ryan. And long story short, they needed an opponent for Mason Ryan because Mason Ryan was getting the look. He was getting that rub. He was the next pet project that eventually was going to move up to the major program, WWE SmackDown and all that. So they wanted to get him going off the ground running. And so they wanted to feed him Enzo down in FCW/NXT. So Enzo would go out there, cut his promo. Mason Ryan beat the holy shit out of him. And it was Big Cass. Big Cass was among the first guys that said, hey man, even though you got your ass kicked out there, what I saw, man, you got it, man. I'm telling you, you're going to get signed. They are going to give you a long-term deal. You're going to get that contract. And Kaz was one of the early believers, and he was running around telling everybody, watch this kid. Watch this kid. He's going to get signed. He's got that it. Watch him. One thing I want to home in on, the topic of Carmella was brought up. And Enzo said, and I thought his words were very interesting, and you kind of have to read in between the lines when you hear this. But Enzo says with regards to Carmella, hey, look, I don't watch the product today, so I couldn't tell you everything that's happening right now. But with regards to Carmella, hey, look, she's a great actress. And I loved how he stressed the word actress. I'm not overanalyzing this in any type of way because I'm watching this DVD pretty much in real time, and I'm just making my notes to talk about with you all as far as the highlights go. And it's just within 2 seconds, boom. That's just how I take the information in. And the second time that he brings up, hey, Carmella, she's a great actress, it's almost as if he's trying to find the right things to say without necessarily putting her in the doghouse. But I thought it was interesting how he said, hey, look, she's a great actress. She liked the character from the Wolf of Wall Street. And Enzo was not really feeling it, and I really wish Rob would have done a better job in going in for the jugular a little bit more and saying, did that rub you the wrong way, that even though there was this character from Wolf of Wall Street that she liked, did it bother you that to a degree she was almost kind of ripping what you and Kaz were doing? Did it feel as though she was trying to do everything that she could to attach herself to you all because she saw that you all were going places? I really wish he would have went in for the jugular a bit. It's kind of hard to defend Rob a little bit. It's kind of hard too when Enzo is just running at 120 miles per hour with his thoughts, because you just see this man not rehearsed in any type of way. I mean, his brain is just sporadically all over the place, right? There are so many points that he's making. It's basically, okay, here's the chapter. Here's the main chapter of what the subject is at hand, but then he's going into the sub-chapters that connects to the main chapter, but he's going through this journey and it's a 360-degree angle in the way that he's telling the story, right? To make it come back to the topic at hand. And Enzo, seeing this Carmela Wolf of Wall Street type of character, he's going, okay, if you're going to go in this direction, I mean, I guess that's cool, but it's kind of what we're doing, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to attach you to us. And sure enough, that's exactly what they had did. And hey, look, you know, she's not a Jersey girl. She's from Staten Island, New York. Somebody like Liv Morgan would have been more suitable for something like that, since she is from the New Jersey area, but it played out the way that it had played out. Okay, whatever. And one interesting point of observation, and it was really nice and refreshing to hear someone that is now outside looking in the WWE and Enzo. It was really nice to hear about what is going on with wrestlers being paid bonus money or any kind of money from what is being drawn off of the WWE network. Because remember, now that we're in this day and age where, okay, you still have the prices at the gate. You still have to factor in the sales at the gate for your pay-per-views. You still have to factor in satellite cable providers that are streaming these pay-per-views, but the big bulk of the revenue is now coming from the WWE network. And Enzo did eloquently, I might add, he did a fantastic job in basically saying, hey, look, the way that everything is set up now, when you look at how Vince McMahon went on ahead, bought out ECW, bought out their library, bought up WCW, bought their library, and all the other territories along the way, and he acquired all of their libraries. Why? Because he saw the writing on the wall that one day everything would become digitalized, that there would be all of these streaming platforms. And now look at where Vince is, look at where the WWE is, and with the way that things are now set up, there is a blanket over the numbers that are accumulated from the WWE network. So you really cannot get a true gauge on, okay, how many buys can happen, how many people had watched, or blah, 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 blah. There's no way to really get that gauge, because it's got a good, nice blanket covering it, and nobody knows except the key people that need to know with regards to it. So that is some serious, significant revenue that for a lot of talents, they're not able to tap into. I loved how Enzo had brought that topic up, and he dived into that. Also talked about how, look at what was going on with Bruno Sammartino winning year after year after year at MSG, putting the idea out there, hey, you don't think that the Mafia might have had something to do with that, with the fact that Bruno had won for so many years? You don't think for an instance that the Mafia might have had a strong arm over all the events, even wrestling events that happened at MSG? Hey, this is a New Jersey guy. This is a New York guy. So he should know what the fuck he's talking about. All right. I'm not going to call him crazy. I'm not going to call him an idiot. I think those are very valid points that he brings up. I also love the fact that he said, hey, look, Linda McMahon now working for Trump's cabinet. Just the whole pyramid. It really does. When he brings those so eloquently to the table, you do go, wow. Yeah. Love how Enzo had brought all of this up. But then on top of all of that, much like with the NFL, right? If you follow the NFL, then you'll get this analogy, but I'll connect the dots better for those of you that's not connected to the NFL and you don't know everything that's going on. But you look at what's been happening with Ezekiel Elliott and in particular Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has been making the news this summer because a lot of people feel, hey, Dak Prescott, he deserves that real good contract. He deserves to be making at least $14 to maybe $19 million a year. He's earned it. Everybody's saying, Jerry Jones, give it to them. And you think about what Jerry Jones has been able to do the past couple of years with the Dallas Cowboys and the cap space that he's been able to have to play around with to get whatever acquisitions he needs. While he has a guy like Dak Prescott, he's got this rookie year contract that's good for like a couple of years or whatnot, right? So factor that into what's going on with Enzo Amore and first little bit that he's involved with the WWE. Him and Big Cass, when they finally do get the call up on the main roster, or rather not the main roster, but when FCW finally makes the transition into NXT and they're dominating for like that whole first year. They are opening up the shows and they are laying down the foundation. You got the NXT Brooklyn and then you do the UK and all of that crazy stuff. And then everything happens with them being elevated to the main roster. And then even at that, Enzo was only getting 1,000 and something a week. Now just stop and marinate on that for a second, boys and girls. The people that are paying premium for those first 3, 4, 5 row seats in front of the hard camera, right? What they've paid for those seats is more than what Enzo is getting for his payday. I mean, WWE is lowballing the fuck out of this guy. And Enzo is a very smart guy, right? Given his educational background and everything, he's trying to follow the money. He's following the paper trail. He knows about the whole percentage breakdown as far as the merchandise that he and Kaz are pulling in. He has all of this down. He knows how much money the company is pulling in. So his mindset is, okay, well, what do I need to do to be like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, to be like a Dwayne The Rock Johnson, a Chris Jericho? What do I need to do to be in a position where I can command some really good sales? What do I need to do? And one of the things that he learned very early on about himself is that he is a great talker. Bottom line, he is a great talker. And y'all know the history about him eventually moving on up to the main roster and everything. It's safe to say that one of the guys that played a instrumental role in, hey, you gotta do something with this guy and Big Cass, John Cena. One day at a FCW / NXT show, there was, after the main show was over, a dark match. And John Cena was supposed to appear in the dark match. And John Cena was in the backstage area and he was watching on the monitor, looking at everything that transpired with that show for that night with Tyler Breeze. If you remember the ESPN documentary that had came out and they highlighted Tyler Breeze, he was like the next guy that was going to get the call up and everything. You remember Triple H was talking with him. What are you thinking as far as your character? Blah, blah, blah. Tyler Breeze is saying, I was thinking about going in a Gorgeous George direction with the mirror, but instead of a mirror, right? Selfie cam, all that. So, you know, Cena's like, hey, who's this guy? Oh, that's Enzo. Oh, yeah, you're going to like him, blah, blah, blah. Enzo does what he does in the ring and everything. John Cena loves it, wants to meet him backstage one-on-one. So you could almost kind of say that John Cena, seeing what he had saw with Enzo, Kaz, that, All right, let me go talk to the powers that be. But so you got these handful of people that are believing in him, and you got to understand why it was so hostile territory for him coming into the WWE, because you've got people that at this point, Enzo don't know anything about the independents. Enzo does not know anything about shoot interviews. Enzo doesn't know anything about wrestling podcasts or anything like that. Right? So he's going into this just totally blind. Meanwhile, you've got people that have been involved in the business, free agency market, independent wrestling. They've been at it for a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10, 15 years, fighting tooth and nail to get the opportunity to one day be in the WWE, and they finally get it. And then here comes this Joe Schmuck. No training, no freaking nothing, just literally from off the streets. How about that? He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and he understood that, but it was a case where he wanted to go out there, earn his stripes, and this guy significantly ate a lot of shit. He gave a lot of high praise to Cody Rhodes and how he's doing this whole AEW thing. He can't wait to see it really take off from the ground and get running. He thinks it's a beautiful thing that's happening with Cody. And, you know, this isn't him dick sucking Cody Rhodes in any type of fashion. He's learned from the best, right? Enzo learned from the best in the American dream. So to see that the son is finally now following in the dad's footsteps, he's rooting the son on. He wishes him nothing but success. And why would you not want to see somebody succeed, right? Well, come on. Especially if you were cool with them like that. He also touched upon the fact that as far as him wrestling for another wrestling promotion, it ain't happening. He has had offers from many companies, big, huge paydays. He's not biting. He is not biting. At this point, he's not interested in wrestling in the ring. He's not even interested in cutting a little promo or whatever like that. He's not interested in that. What he is interested in nowadays is his music. He's interested in his clothing line. He is doing something that is incorporating wrestling, MMA, boxing. Some of the stuff that was shown of his set where he was conducting this interview was a little bit of a giveaway, a little bit of a taste as far as things to come with his respected business and everything. But he obviously is still finalizing a couple of things, so we're not going to know a lot more about that until it comes later on down the road, right? But this is a man that is doing very well for himself. Sadly, the only topics that I did not get a chance to hear, but I did hear from the Stone Cold podcast, I did not get to hear, okay, what happened with that Raw anniversary show. I did not get to hear, okay, talk about what happened with the girl, Phoenix, to talk about her, any comments. I did not get to hear any of that. I did not get to hear about the exit from the WWE. All of these topics was covered in the Stone Cold podcast, right? And again, I sadly did not get a chance to hear these topics. As I mentioned at the top, the DVD I got had a serious malfunction. Yeah, it just freaking sucks. But again, if you did not get a chance to check out the Stone Cold podcast, help yourself to this one. If you can stream it and you got no problem streaming it, I should have checked to see if there was a streaming option. I think at the time when I was trying to see about ordering this, I don't think there was a streaming option. It was only DVD, and it was $12 for the DVD. $10 more, you get a picture of Enzo that's autographed. Pay $20, you basically get 2 autographed pictures, different pictures, but they're both autographed by Enzo. It's not a print, it's originally signed, right? So, I mean, you can't really beat that. That's a pretty good deal that they got as opposed to title match wrestling. You're just basically streaming it just to watch it, right? But in the meantime, I would say that this shoot interview, it definitely gets a pass. I love seeing the evolution of RF Video with regards to how the interviews are conducted. I like seeing more of Rob Feinstein share camera time with the person that he's interviewing. It was really nice to see him sharing the same frame with the person that he's interviewing, although at many parts throughout the shoot, it's mainly on the guest, but Rob does come in a lot more. That was kind of nice. Get away from the whole traditional camera on the subject and that's basically it, right? I enjoyed that aspect of it. And if I had any type of advice to Rob, I would just say, you know what? Let future shoot interviews have that much more breathing room, like with what had went down with Enzo. Now, I would definitely say to you guys, Enzo was given way too much breathing room and it wasn't steered enough, I personally feel. But despite that, I think as far as shoot interview goes and everything, it lived up to the hype. You're not going to find anything derogatory, sensationalized, or oh my God, you're not going to find that. And what was really the dead giveaway of this is at one point, Enzo shares one of his first memories of checking out a shoot interview for the very first time. He talked about how he was watching RF shoot interview with Mojo, I believe Dean Ambrose, a couple of other people, and what they were watching was one on Jim Cornette, and was talking about how Jim Cornette was just burying people left and right, things of that nature. And without Enzo being point blank, you could connect the dots and realize, okay, so that kind of rubbed Enzo the wrong way. And Enzo kind of reiterated that that's not what he's about, right? Because when it's all said and done, no matter what, he was afforded a golden opportunity that wouldn't happen to your average Joe, and he appreciates the experience and all that. So a really humbled guy is how he really comes off. So, but in the meantime, I want to know what you all had thought. The Enzo Amore shoot interview conducted by RF Video. Sound off. Let me know what you had thought about it. You can leave a comment. You can also get at me on Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Use the keywords, the RCWR Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. Please go out of your way. Hit the subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you never miss out on all the great content that comes your way on a week-to-week basis. And until next go round, I'm wishing all of you all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you all next go round. You all do take care.